Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Szilárd and this is episode 8 of Road to Iceland. In this episode we went to Richmond Park because one of my mate Jack just got a new road bike and we decided to do a confidence building ride with him, and Richmond Park is pretty much the perfect spot for that because it's a very safe environment to cycle around. Also it gives you different terrains, you got flat surfaces and then you got a couple of hills as well, which gives you the opportunity to figure out how to play with your gears before you go into a hill climb. Because of the crappy weather conditions I only had one ride outdoor and I sorted out the rest of my training indoors doing home workouts, which brings me to the next topic of this episode, which is gonna be the last training protocol I promised you to talk about last week. We went through so far 3 protocols: lower body, core, upper body, and today we're gonna be looking at the full body protocol. At the end of this episode we're gonna look again at the crapometer to see how many kilometers is in the bike already. I also did a little bit of a maintenance on the bike and gave it a very well deserved wash because the mud buildup was just insane. Alright then, I say let's dive in. Time to talk about some training now. So the last protocol I haven't talked about yet is the total body, full body training protocol, whichever way you like saying it. So the structure of the workout is going to be exactly the same as I mentioned it in the previous episode when we talked about the upper body training. So we're going to start with a warm-up, then we're going to mobilize, then move on to the main component of the workout, which is going to be a power movement. Then we're going to move on to do some strength exercises. Now because we're talking about full body this week, you're gonna have lower body and upper body exercise as well. When it comes to lower body, we want to work with compound movements, and not only when we work with the lower body, but in general when you do strength and conditioning workouts, you try to focus on working with compound movements, meaning that you're using multiple joints at the same time. I think I mentioned an example last time, which would be like a push-up or a bench press. Now back to the lower body, you want to have a knee flexion and a hip hinge movement as well. Knee flexion movements would be squat or any variation of the squat. Hip hinge movements is going to be deadlift or glute bridges, something which involves the movement of the hip. With the upper body, you want to focus on pulling and pushing movements, and again utilizing multi-joint exercises. When you're choosing your exercises for the strength component, you want to make sure that you're using unilateral and bilateral exercise as well. I explained earlier too that unilateral are the ones which are using a single limb, and then the bilateral exercises are the ones which are using 2 limbs at the same time. Now because we're talking about the total body strength and conditioning workout, you want to make sure that you're working on your core as well. So I would say that the minimum is 2 exercises you include, 1 static, 1 dynamic, and then make sure that you try to work on your abs, side body and your lower back as well. So if you only choose 2 exercises, choose wisely, so you make sure that you have flat flexion, extension and rotation checked as well. Once you finish with your core workout, you're going to move on to do your complementary exercises. Complementary exercises will be the ones which complement the previously executed exercises in the power and in the strength department. So think about exercises like side lunges, front raises, tricep dips. These are all complementary exercises, and also you can maybe start focusing on isolation exercises. After the complementary work, we're going to move on to do some accessory and corrective exercises, and again these are here just to address any technical or strength related issues so you can start making improvements. And finally, what everybody forgets to do is the stretches. So don't forget to do your stretches. It's not going to take too long time, 5-10 minutes at the end of the session, and then just make sure that you don't go crazy and then you go into like hardcore developmental stretches. Just make sure that you stretch enough so you remove some of the stiffness what build up during the session. Because the gyms are closed, a lot of people don't have access to equipment such as dumbbells and barbells. So for the sake of keeping it simple and relatable for everybody, I'm just going to be using resistance band, body weight and very simple equipment in these demonstrations and in the explanation. So if you wish to replicate the workout, then you can do so. Now we're gonna go into dissecting every single part of the workout. There are some things which I talked about, so I'm not gonna go really into detail because you can go back into the previous episode and you can watch, for example, when I talk about the warm-up and the mobility exercises. The main thing is here that you need to prep your body before you go into any heavy work. This is preventative, and then the faster you make a habit of it, the better it's gonna be in the long run. The first main component of the total body strength workout is gonna be a power movement. Now when you choose your power movement, make sure that it's explosive. Power movement means by nature that it should be explosive. Also, the other thing what you want to focus on is that your technique is good. So choose something which you know that you can for sure do it with good technique. I use two examples for the power movement, and one is gonna be a resistance band push press and then the other is gonna be a burpee. I know everybody hates burpees, but hey, you don't have dumbbell kettlebell at home, then you're gonna have to choose something. Or you can go to Amazon and then order a kettlebell or a dumbbell. But don't order if they deliver it with UPS, because I've been waiting for my GoPro for 3 weeks and it still didn't arrive. So no UPS. Sorry UPS, your fault. In the next component of the workout, we're gonna look at strength exercises, and then we're gonna start with the lower body and then we move on to the upper body. The reason why we start with the lower body is because they usually are heavier exercises. You're gonna be lifting bigger weights. So considering that your nervous system fatigues as well, not only your muscles, we tend to do the bigger, heavier, more complex movement in the beginning of the workout, and then we're gonna work our way up towards the easier exercises towards the end of the session. Now when it comes to the lower body, I mentioned that you need to look at knee flexion and hip hinge movement. I use two examples for each, one unilateral and one bilateral exercise. So with the knee flexion, the unilateral exercise is going to be a Bulgarian split squat, and the bilateral exercise is going to be a resistant band front squat. For the hip hinge movement, the unilateral exercise is going to be a single leg glute bridge, and the bilateral exercise is going to be a Romanian deadlift. When we pick the upper body exercises, we want to work on pull and push, and as I mentioned, you try to think about compound exercises, again unilateral and bilateral as well. So you make sure that you choose exercises where you have to work with both of your arms and then you have to work with single arm as well. For the pushing movements, the two exercises I have chosen as examples is the archer push-up, which is going to be your unilateral exercise, because even though it's not utilizing only a single arm, but the majority of the work happens on one side, so therefore we consider it a unilateral exercise. And then the bilateral exercise is gonna be a Z press, which is a form of a variation of a shoulder press. When it comes to pulling movements, a bilateral exercise would be a resistance band lat pull down, and a unilateral exercise would be a single arm standing row. And now we are on the core training, and do not forget the core training. I know that loads of people don't like to do the abs because they only can think about crunches and sit-ups, but there is way more to core workouts than just doing those basic exercises. Now again, two things you need to keep in mind: do an isometric exercise, meaning static, and do dynamic exercise. bare minimum is 2 exercises. You also want to make sure that when you choose your exercises, you hit your abs, your obliques, and your lower back as well, either in isometric or dynamic fashion. Again, I picked a couple of exercises as examples. For dynamic movements, I have chosen the V sit-up, which is going to be working mainly on your abs, and then the alternating Superman, which is going to be working on your lower back and also hits the glutes, middle back, and some part of the upper back as well. For the static exercises, I have chosen the tuck knee V-sit, which I actually in the video demonstrated a little bit more advanced version of it, which is just the V-sit. So instead of bending my knee, I keep my knees straight, so my leg and my upper body closes about a 90-degree angle. And then for the back, it's a lower back extension, so lying on the tummy, raising the chest and holding the position. Once we finish with the core workout, we're going to move on to the complementary exercises, and for the examples I have chosen exercises which complement the exercises I have earlier mentioned. So if you choose different power movements, lower body exercises, then your complementary work is going to be changing as well. If you want, you can replicate this whole workout as it is, but if you decide to change the exercise, then you're going to have to consider again the complementary and also the corrective exercises to be changed as well. For my complementary exercises, I have chosen side lunges as an example for the lower body, resistance band front raises for the upper body, and then to specifically target the upper arm muscles, I have chosen tricep dips, which is, even though it's a compound movement, I still consider it more an isolation because the focus is very much on the tricep muscles. For accessory and corrective exercise, you need to choose movement that's gonna help you to target specific weaknesses in the area, either if it's a strength related issue or a technical flow. Based on my experiences, I know that a lot of people struggle with balancing exercises, so I always like to choose something which targets balancing. For example, a resistance band skater hold, which is going to work on your ankle, knee and hip stability, also works your core and then your coordination as well. Another area I see a lot of people struggling is mobility, so for this example I have chosen the resistance band Jefferson curl, which is an excellent lower and upper back mobility exercise. But because you have the resistance band, you're not only mobilizing your spine, but you're strengthening all the muscles which are running down on either side of your spinal column. And as usual, I provided 2 examples for you how to put together a workout using the above mentioned protocol. The warm-up and mobility and the stretch as well is missing from the template, but you know that you should do that, so don't forget it. And then just check out protocol A and protocol B as well. I gave you the exercises as well for the strength part, so if you want, you can just replicate the whole workout as it is. During the demonstration, I will be giving you tips on forms and technique, and I will be also recommending the number of sets and repetitions you should perform. If you find the demonstration videos a little bit too quick, feel free to pause the video and then just read through everything, because it's valuable information so you can perform the exercise with the best possible form and without injuring yourself. If you'd like to figure out more about training, I also included a link to my website in the description below, so just click on it and then get in touch. I'm more than happy to help you. And if you're already at my website, don't forget to sign up for my fortnightly health and fitness newsletter as well. When doing the push press, just do a small dip at the knees. You don't have to do a full squat. Be explosive with the hip extension. Make sure that your back remains flat so you maintain a good posture, and then just try to punch a hole in the ceiling with both of your hands, knuckles facing up towards the ceiling. With the burpees, just make sure that you control the movement and you're not slamming your body on the floor like a bag of potatoes. Touch the floor with the chest, but again, no slamming. Feet under the hips when you jump in. Make sure that you keep the movement dynamic. Try to jump really tall and then land softly with your knee slightly bent to absorb any shock. And then make sure that you squeeze your teeth together just to keep everything inside. With the front squats, have your toes pointing at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Make sure that your knees are tracking the toes so they're following the same direction. When you move, try to move your hip back and down. Don't lean forward because you might end up on your face, and then make sure that you're not choking yourself with the band. Don't push it into your Adam apple because you're gonna suffocate yourself. When performing the Bulgarian split squat, you're gonna need some elevation, so choose something which is gonna elevate your feet at least 20 to 25 centimeters. Make sure that the front foot is flat on the floor. Load the glutes and the quads. When you stand up, squeeze your butt as hard as you can, and then also focus on correct posture. Try not to hunch your back, keep your chest up, and also look at your knees. Make sure that they are not buckling. For the Romanian deadlift, you're gonna have to step on the band and make sure that you step on it good, because otherwise it's gonna smack you in the face. Keep your knees over the ankles at all times so your shin bones are perpendicular to the floor, and think about the hip moving horizontally instead of vertically. Imagine that there is an object behind you and you wanna push it away with your butt, and don't forget about squeezing your shoulder blades, keep them back and down. When performing the single leg glute bridges, have your arms beside you, make sure that you tuck your pelvis, drive the hip up and clench your buttocks as hard as you can. Keep your thighs parallel to each other, and the non-working leg should be straight and solid, not like a rubber doll. For the lat pull down, start with a half kneeling position, keep the upper body perpendicular to the floor, keep the shoulder blades engaged at all times, don't let them glide up and down when you're extending your arms. Always try to use full range of motion and fully extend your arms, forget about doing half reps. For the single arm row, start in a standing position with a split stance. Lock in your hip, don't let it sway or swing. Keep your elbow close to your ribcage when you perform the movement, almost like you're rubbing the elbow against the body, and make sure that you fully extend your arm but without letting the shoulder blades glide forward or backwards. Keep it nice and stable. With the Z press, start in a seated position, make sure that the legs are completely straight, drive the back of the knee into the ground, try to keep your upper body vertical or close to vertical with the floor, keep your core nice and tight, use full range of motion, and again punch up towards the ceiling with the knuckles facing the roof. For the archer push-up, start with your hands a lot wider than your shoulder width. You're gonna be moving left to right. While you're bending one arm, you're gonna be locking out the other elbow. You're gonna have to be turning your hands to accommodate the movement. Also, you need to focus on total body tension. Imagine somebody's trying to kick you while you do the exercise, so tense your body. You need to hold that plank solid. With the V-sit-up, you're gonna start lying on your back, and then you're gonna move your chest towards your knees at the same time. You're folding like a pocket knife. You wanna make sure that you keep your legs completely straight. With your arms, you're reaching for your ankles, and focus on using your abs and your hip flexors while you do the exercise. When you lower yourself, again, no slamming, control the movement. You don't wanna end up with bruises. In the V-sit hold position, you're gonna be balancing on your butt. You wanna keep your legs fully extended as well as your arms. You try to close a 90-degree angle or something like that in between your thighs and your core. The core is fully engaged. Pull your shoulder blades back and down so your back stays nice and flat, and make sure that you keep your eyes on your toes. The alternating Superman will start in a prone lying position. You're gonna raise your hand and the opposing leg. Try to reach as high as you can. Focus on contracting the upper back, lower back and the glute muscles. Make sure that you hold the position for half a second before you switch over to the other side. Keep staring the floor, head is in line with the rest of the spine. With the isometric back extension, you're gonna start again, lying on your tummy, pin the pelvis into the ground, lift your chest as tall as you can, fully contract the lower back and squeeze your butt as hard as you can. Stay still and don't forget to breathe. When performing the side lunges, make sure that both of your feet are flat on the floor. The inside leg should be completely straight. Push your hip back and down, meanwhile you're keeping your back nice and flat, and also keep your chest up. You can look straight forward or slightly down on the floor. You got to work with straight lines, no crooked lines. For the front raises, you're gonna step inside the resistance band with both feet, and then you're gonna grab the band with both hands. While you do the exercise, you need to achieve full body tension. Pull the shoulder blades back and down and keep your arms completely straight while you pull the band up from your thighs, roughly at eye height. If your face isn't distorting, you need to grab a stronger band. For the tricep dips, you're gonna have to grab again some sort of elevation. Make sure that you place your hands directly under your shoulders. Then you're gonna bend your elbows and lower your hip towards the ground. Then press yourself up, and on the top position, you're gonna squeeze your tricep as hard as you can. For the skater pose, you're gonna step again on the band while you're holding both ends of the resistance band with your hands, and technically you're gonna perform a single leg deadlift and you're gonna stay in the bottom position. Shoulder to heel, you're gonna have to create one straight line. Engage your shoulder blades, keep the scapula retracted at all time, and make sure that your head is in line with the rest of the spine, and then go to your happy place. For the Jefferson curl, you're gonna start with your feet close together, stepping on the band, holding both ends of the band with your hands. Keep your legs straight at all times and allow your spine flex on the way down. Let it stretch. Tuck your chin as you come up. Make sure that you engage the muscles, you switch on your vertebrae one by one. When lowering the upper body, make sure that you control the movement. Don't let the resistance band snap because you might kiss your knees real hard. We're just going to have an extremely quick look at the crapometer and the Strava. So the crapometer at the moment stands at 1658 kilometers. I haven't done too much last week, but from next week I'm gonna be leveling up my game. I will aim for about 200 kilometers and I try to do that every week now, or if I can even go more than 200 kilometers. Two reasons, and obviously number one is to improve my endurance, and then the second reason is the more kilometer I put in the bike, the faster things will break on it, so I can start buying new things. I have a nice little shopping list ready. Secretly, I'm hoping that the first thing breaking is gonna be my gear shifter, because I really want to upgrade to an 11-speed cassette with an 11-speed shifter, and I already had the Shimano 105. It's on the top of my shopping list, so I'm just waiting now. Even though I'm waiting for things to break on the bike so I can change and upgrade to newer, better parts, I still try to take care of the bike, do clean it and do some maintenance on it. I guess it's an Eastern European upbringing as well. I'm still afraid if my mom sees it, then she's gonna freak out and slap the shit out of me. And as usual, we're gonna have a look at the Strava. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I don't want you to start drooling in your lap. So real quick, we did 56.44 kilometers and that took us 3 hours and 3 minutes. And this is with Jack on the initiation ride. The elevation was 406 meters, so nothing really crazy there. The average watt was 92 and the average speed was 18.5 kilometers, so you can figure out that it wasn't a very hard effort. It was a little bit on the cruising side, but again, Jack is fresh back on the bike. He used to cycle before, but he hasn't cycled for a while as far as I know, and he just got his bike, so I wasn't gonna break the guy on the first session. But it was a good opportunity for him to figure out how to deal with the gear changing on hill climbs and also to see plenty nice deers, which was amazing, but it cost me my sunglasses. I haven't realized that I dropped my sunglasses as I was moving back and forth. I haven't realized that I went through like a Sherman tongue and I completely flattened the thing. So rest in peace, sunglasses. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed. I will be back next week. The goal for next week is to increase my distance that I cover within the week. I'm aiming for 200 kilometers, so therefore I'm gonna be going out on Tuesday and on Thursday as well. Tuesday I'm definitely riding with Tom, and then on Thursday probably I'm just gonna be doing a solo session. As usual, all of our social media links are included in the description below. If you'd like to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Komoot or Strava, please head down and click on the link. And if you are digging our content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you later guys, have a good one.